What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday, new comic book day here on Hyper RPG.
Boom, 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 boom.
And we're here to talk about comic books.
I was gonna say coffee.
And coffee.
Coffee.
I got some Seattle coffee in my cup right now.
I got some Keurig.
Cool.
It's cold.
Malika picked this up for me when she was up in Seattle.
Mmm.
It is good. It's very nutty. You would like it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's got a roasty flavor. It's not a fruity flavor. It's roasty. No, I said it's good. I swear to God. I swear to God.
It's good. All right.
I said it's good. Sorry. What the fuck? Oh wait, I'm not supposed to cuss anymore on the show.
Too late for that, pal.
I was told I have to stop cussing on this show.
Just, you gotta stop with the negative sentiment.
She's on a roll, man. She is on
Wanna do the
a
show?
roll. Oh my God.
I'll just watch 2 hours
What
of
did I do today?
What did you not do?
I've been reading comic books thinking, what did I do? What did I forget to do, Malika? I feel like I'm in trouble for something.
What shelf did you not put up today?
Nah, that wouldn't get me in trouble, would it? I don't know. Lucas, can you check focus on this? People are saying it's a little blurry. You might have to do the magnifying glass thing and get a focus on us.
Magnify.
But thank you guys so much for tuning in with us today. Happy Wednesday, happy new comic book day. I'm coming in today like super pumped. I feel like I read a bunch of really great books today, and Adam's like,
Some of them were
feeling
good.
it.
Some of them were good. Some of the ones I wasn't that into. There might be one that might surprise people that I'm like, that was all right.
I had a lot of fun reading today.
Yeah. There was a couple that definitely were fun to read for sure.
King Thor is so metal. That book, I love how metal it is.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm trying not to curse, it's so metal.
It's so hard for you to not curse.
It's in my blood, man. Literally, when I
We
was
listened
like,
to it all day here.
when I was like 8 years old, I was surrounded with people who wrote literally on things, Zach, don't beep, touch, not your beep. Like, keep the beep out. And it's like I just learned how to read.
Sounds like an instruction manual.
Literally, the whole shop was set up with things like cursing little boy Zach out.
Oh,
I was
poor
like,
guy.
oh, I just learned how to read, and I can tell that that's telling me to go F myself. What does that mean?
What a delightful place to be around.
It's just how I talk. Why is YouTube punishing the way I speak?
Hey man, we
Why
all
is
know
YouTube
this.
now my, like,
Why is YouTube my parent
why
now?
is YouTube turned into like judgmental church mom or something?
Well,
It's the church lady.
that's
Well,
the,
isn't that
those are the cards we've
special?
been dealt, I guess, on this platform now.
Right, I guess. If you guys got Unearthed 3, talk about it without spoiling it. I haven't picked it up yet. I actually didn't get a chance to read Unearthed 3 yet. But you know, we're gonna talk about comic books second half of the show. First half of the show, we're gonna vamp a little bit, talk about some news in the comic book world. And the big one that I had no idea about until Adam was like, did you see my tweet? And I was like, what? Did you see my tweet?
Well, first he asked me like, all right, what's the headline of our show today? I'm like, well, someone has not been on social media for the last 4 hours.
I haven't. I was reading comic books. It's one of my favorite things about Wednesday. I usually open up the comic book app
Turn off
and
the world.
I'm
Yeah.
out. I'm reading comics. Leave me alone. But apparently Harbinger picked up by Paramount.
Moved from Sony to Paramount.
Right. Interesting.
Very. Because Bloodshot, still at Sony.
Still at Sony.
So, no cinematic universe? That includes Bloodshot now? Is that going to be the thing?
I have to be really careful talking about this because
That's why I'm so
there's
glad we're here.
things I've known about for years that I haven't been allowed to talk about through Friend DA. This is public news, so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
And we can talk about what that means, why Harbinger is or isn't right for a movie.
Some people
But I have to be really careful talking about the Sony
Sure.
Valiant stuff.
Some people have already been saying, like, is this kind of like a Spider-Man situation where you have a character that's, I don't
Doubtful.
know. I mean, Valiant, as good as it potentially can be, it's not as well known as Marvel and it's not as well known as Spider-Man. So it's like equating the two things of like, Bloodshot is the Spider-Man of the Valiant universe.
Yeah.
Yes, but not to that scale, I would say, in terms of its popularity with general audiences.
The thing that really makes me nervous is... Never mind.
Good luck.
I can't. God! What can I say? If I was just a person who didn't have Friend EA and I was just theorizing, I could theorize certain things.
Sure.
But I have to be careful because I am under Friend EA.
It's a good thing I don't know these things, so even if it's true, I'm like, I don't know, I guess.
From my perspective, I feel...
Any thoughts?
I think...
Any thoughts and comments do not reflect our company?
or things that have been told to me. I feel and I think that if I was Sony and I had Bloodshot that was just about finishing and I was confident in it, I would want to hold on to Harbinger full-heartedly because Harbinger Wars, where you combine Bloodshot and Harbinger, is prime we're starting our own universe potential. It writes itself. You put out the Harbinger movie, you put out the Bloodshot movie. If you're confident in those two, you do Harbinger Wars, boom, you're done. You got your shared universe, Sony. You've got it. So what concerns me is Sony's losing faith in Bloodshot. That's what concerns me. Because I feel like if they were confident in that product, we would have heard more about it.
Yeah, we've heard nothing.
They would be holding on to everything that surrounds it.
Also,
and that concerns me.
I will say, like, considering everything that Sony is currently going through with Spider-Man and Disney, to take a big chunk of a universe that you now have like owned for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now, that you've kind of done nothing with other than like, well, we're working on it. Doesn't really make you look any better than where you were 2 weeks ago with Spider-Man.
No.
So now it's like, oh, we have Spider-Man. We're gonna make movies. We're really
this other
confident what we can do.
giant superhero
but also,
universe
this
thing, we
thing,
threw it away.
We're gonna give it to Paramount. And
yeah,
like,
Paramount, you can
what the
have
hell? Okay. All right, I guess. I don't know. But then I also look at Paramount's slate, and they're literally doing nothing but
Wait a minute.
remakes. What's up?
Paramount.
Yes.
Do they have any investors that are also tied to the company that bought Valiant?
I have no clue. That's an internet question. Y'all do the work.
Let me...
I have no idea. All I know is that Paramount is in the business of remaking a lot of stuff. They haven't moved forward with anything new in terms of like Star Trek. I would say Mission Impossible is currently... I think Mission Impossible is the only franchise they currently own that's really like pushing forward and making really great movies. I could be wrong though. Ow, what's up?
March 14, 2016, Beijing and Los Angeles-based DMG Entertainment is one of the entities seeking to buy a minority stake in Paramount Pictures.
But did they?
Huh. By a media corporation now own... I'm so... did it happen though? This is what I'm trying to figure out. DMG taps JP Morgan as financial advisor on Paramount. So were they just bidding for Paramount and DMG didn't actually pick it up?
I don't know. It's a good question.
I feel like there's gotta be some sort of like...
I'm sure there probably is.
Handshake or something going on between DMG and Paramount. Because this was a concern for me the second DMG bought out Valiant. Is Sony had a bunch of Valiant stuff in the works.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if DMG was gonna get in the way of that. Because DMG obviously has its own ideas about entertainment.
Sure. I mean, I feel like that's the case with a lot of time when these like comic book properties and or entities get bought up by bigger companies who then sell off or partner up with even bigger studios. Like, at what point is the creativity and sort of the intention of what maybe the comic book entity have lost through the multiple layers of development and all that stuff? I don't know. It's tricky. Paramount stake auction.
It's so weird that all this stuff comes up, but there's no follow-up on if it happened.
Maybe there's a reason for that, Zach.
I know, a lot of people keep these deals secret. The amount of stuff in Hollywood we don't get to know about.
And that the internet pretends they know about. I'm like, you guys don't know anything. If you don't live in LA and you're not directly tied into some of these studios, you don't know jack.
So Urval's saying DMG is still in the running to buy Paramount as of July.
To buy Paramount? Paramount's a...
Or is it just a stock in Paramount, like a piece of Paramount?
Yeah, because they're a Viacom-controlled company. They are
to buy a stake in it.
Yeah, to buy a stake, yeah.
And those bids have been going on since 2016?
Dude, it's 3 years. You haven't figured it out in 3 years?
Hopefully Urval's not looking at an article that's from July of 2016.
Bum, bum, bum.
We'll find out soon enough. That wouldn't surprise me, but I do worry about that stuff because holding on to IP rights is such a challenging thing in today's day and age, and it feels like in today's cinema world, it's all about IP.
Yeah.
And comic books now are like the fast track to movie IPs. Like,
I mean, we talked about it, I don't know, like maybe 2 months ago, how so many creators who have done graphic novels or comic book runs, they've created so many new graphic novels and so many new stories just because they know that a studio will very likely look at them and be like, well, that's something we want to develop. I mean, look at Mark Millar, the deal he made with Netflix. I don't doubt that Space Bandits will be a series on Netflix in like a year or two.
yeah.
You know, like it's inevitable. Why else would they buy out Millar World?
Fuck.
Are you trying to figure out what you can and cannot
Yes!
say right now?
That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I hate this because I feel like I am one of the few people, I never go anywhere or do anything.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, I just happen to talk to people who will just drop stuff in my lap, partly because they're like, you're not an influencer, you're not a news guy, you're not gonna tell anybody. I'm like, yeah, we'll shoot the shit. And then now I'm like,
Just drink some of your pee-pee water and it'll make you not say anything.
I was told I need to have more electrolytes in my diet. So this is electrolyte water. Get off my back, man. What are you, my mom? Get out of here. Get out of here.
I am your mom. And your dad.
I hate this. This is one of the reasons sometimes I didn't want, like, there'd be certain news that would come up and be like, oh, I want to talk about this with you guys on Hyper Heroes. I'm like, no, I can't even sit there. I can't. I'll get myself in trouble. I'll get sued.
I mean, the conversations that we had at one point about like Spider-Man and the marketing of all that stuff, it was like, all right, how do we avoid talking about this on any episode of Hyper Heroes for the next 3 months before the movie comes out, or 4 months, however long it was.
Yeah.
It was forever. But I don't know. I think in terms of the situation itself, you know, as someone who is not as invested in the Valiant, like I started reading some of it and I dug it. But then, you know, there was going to be that live action series that was supposed to come out that like ended up not coming out, and then
Which one? Ninjak?
Ninjak and the Valiant.
It came out.
Did it?
Yeah.
Is it on YouTube?
Comicbook.com
Oh,
exclusive.
that's right. That's
why nobody saw it.
That's what happened.
Comicbook.com exclusive, which
That's
I'm
right.
happy for them because that meant comicbook.com bought it.
Yeah.
Unhappy that nobody saw it.
That's right. That's what it was.
I'm sure some of our audience, because we built a lot of Valiant fans in our community, have seen it.
Right.
But comicbook.com, came out.
And
It's
then,
good for a web show. I'll
sure.
say it's good for a web show.
Sure. But then, yeah, like all this movie stuff. And I remember, man, I think it was TwitchCon like 2 or 3 years ago. You were like showing me things, and I was just like, when is this happening? And then it just took forever and ever and ever. And now, so is this Bloodshot movie that Sony's making, is it shot? Do we like, can you even say if it's...
Why are you asking me this?
Because I feel like I see conflicting things. I feel like I see people posting stuff that the movie has been shot, has not been shot.
I will say this. I miss Dinesh.
I know. Well, he posts stuff too. Like
He posts stuff. Follow him on Instagram and Twitter. He posts stuff.
he
It's
just
being
posts
shot.
stuff. He's got his like a little office for
Production
the movie.
office. I think shooting's probably done. Just what I'll say, based on his tweets and his Instagram, it looks like shooting is done. They
Yeah.
might be doing pickup shots, but it looks to me like it might be in post-production.
Because there's been like, and probably a lot of it is also because Valiant is, again, not built up to be like a Marvel, like a DC. So they have the advantage of like, they can kind of slip under the radar for most of what they're doing, and they can just drop a trailer and nobody would know.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm kind of like patiently waiting to see what happens with the movies. I think they were supposed to be developing some TV stuff as well, but I don't know. Like, I want to see more stuff coming from other publishers being translated into live action. it just kind of feels like, well, does this mean that this is now going to be postponed? They did say that it's not on the fast track anymore. They're gonna have some sort of like internal regrouping at Paramount of like, okay, so how do we want to approach this? Probably just to make sure that everybody at Paramount's on the same page as the creative team.
That's tough.
Which is moving over.
I don't even want to think about the IP dance that's happening here. I can find no updates anywhere about whether or not DMG actually bought some stock and stake in Paramount.
Do I know
I don't know if that's private or public information.
Yeah. I would contact the Paramount, but there's no way I'd get an answer right now.
It would make sense to me if DMG did, and that's going on, because this stuff's so messy. This who holds the rights to anything? As we're seeing with Marvel and Sony, who owns the rights is very messy. And when we're talking about the Valiant universe, which hasn't technically come out in video form yet, this is about to get really messy because that universe was built from the ground up as what felt like cinematic universe before Marvel was a cinematic universe. I always told people, if you want to see how a cinematic universe can be done, go read the first 2 years of Valiant after the relaunch. Unity, freaking Harbinger, Bloodshot, Eternal Warrior, all of them were synergized so well, and they chose quality over quantity. It was a breath of fresh air for comic book fans because you were getting a superhero universe that felt like the superheroes of the 90s. I felt like the Valiant universe did a great job of feeling like what you remembered the 90s to be, without the bad art, without the convoluted bullshit. But it was epic. It was big in scope, but it wasn't convoluted big in scope. It was a very straightforward approach to, like, we're gonna make good superhero books. We're gonna tie them all together, and when we do an event, that event is gonna be fucking tight. Like Harbinger Wars is tight. It's a tight event book. And Unity was a tight book. Unity to me is like, could be seen as a building block for something like Justice League.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it from like, how do you build up a team of people who haven't come together, and you gotta start and get it moving quick, and you've got all these moving pieces. It's really well done. They had some amazing creators over there working on all those books when everything first launched, and it is just perfectly primed for a cinematic universe. And it's messy because they made their books that way.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine when those rights go off, when your comic book worlds were built to be perfectly synergized.
Yeah.
You know, Bloodshot after the relaunch to me isn't Bloodshot if he's not interacting with the Harbinger kids, because that's that's part of that story. That's part of that world and how it all comes together. Toyo Harada and, oh man, I don't know, YouTube audience may not know about this. Like I ran a show with Valiant on this network.
It's on, we have all the episodes on our YouTube channel.
I worked very closely with the Valiant team and felt like a part of the Valiant family for a little while. So I went deep. I went very deep and read every single thing they ever put out. And for a while, I felt like I was like a Valiant connoisseur because I was just consuming so much to have to do these stories. I've fallen off the bandwagon a little bit since Dinesh left with DMG's takeover. I've read a couple books since then. So I don't know too much about what's going on over there right now, but there are some good books like Dr. Mirage. Mwah, so good. But I feel very fortunate that I had a behind the scenes look at their creative process, how refreshing that was, how they were working with people like me. I'm sad that some of that is missing now, but I don't know how they move forward now, because to me, that was like the perfect situation. And I hate thinking that all the time, it always seems to come back to fucking Sony in this shit. You know what I mean? Like, Sony, what are you doing? You've got these golden eggs, man. What are you doing?
We're making more Men in Black movies, man. Which I heard was not good.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like, I feel like at some point there's got to... But I mean, at the end of the day, we as fans care. We care. We shouldn't expect the people who make a living off these things... Let me rephrase that. The people who write them, labor over them, we should expect them to care. The people who decide their fate maybe don't care as much. and look at how much money can we make? How much are we giving to somebody else? How do we keep the studio afloat? They have pressures that we're unaware of.
Yeah.
They got stockholders that they gotta please. They gotta keep certain things
That
working
they
and
do.
moving. That's their care. So that's something we will always be fighting with. But it's always sad as a fan to see how these things progress, how there's these opportunities for greatness. And in a way, fuck you, Marvel and Sony, for showing it's possible. We would have never even thought this could happen. We would have never even thought that this was a thing that could be done. And then you went and you broke all the rules, and then took it back to normal. And everyone's like, "Whoa, that can exist. You mean people can play nice together, and we can have this unity of creative resources that benefits us, the fans. We're the ones that are like, fuck yeah!" Sorry, God.
We need a swear jar for you. My God.
This is gonna be so bad.
We need a swear jar for Zach. Problem is, he's got nothing to put in there.
I'm
Kaiju hair.
I got nothing.
Kaiju hair. You can put kaiju hair in there until you can make a new dog.
I feel we're, and I think the Russo brothers said it best about the Spider-Man thing. They always assumed this was gonna happen, but they feel so fortunate that they got to play in that world where that existed. And I think we as fans have to start looking at it that way.
Yeah.
This is not normal. And we got really fortunate.
Yeah, and it's nuts. Like out of how big and expansive the Marvel Cinematic Universe is, literally one pair of directors were the only ones, aside from John Watts, obviously, who got to play with Spider-Man in another universe. Like that's it. And it was like a 4-year deal basically, and only one set of directors got to play around with Spider-Man in that universe, and it's kind of a bummer because we could have seen him cross over in so many other things in the future. And with this, it's like, cool. I'm sure Sony and Paramount are not going to make some sort of a deal where they can cross over universes.
Why would Sony? They don't know if there's value in it yet.
Yeah.
I mean, to them, this is an untested property.
Yeah.
It's untested. We haven't seen Valiant on the big screen yet. To me, that's an advantage.
Yeah.
Like that to me sounds like you have a real advantage here to come out swinging with no prior expectations. From a marketing standpoint, that is terrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying. But the building blocks are there. Dinesh and the team back in 2012, they put those building blocks there in a really cool way. And it feels like they were ahead of their time and thinking of what it could be and what the future could be. It's like if you were to look in the comic book world, it feels like Valiant did what Marvel Cinematic Universe did before they did it. But they did it in the comic book world.
Yeah.
And it's a real shame. It's a real shame.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder about other stuff, but I can't talk about the other stuff because I can't even say that I know that those things are in development.
Dun dun dun.
Because I don't know well enough to know what's public knowledge right now, so I just have to keep my mouth shut.
I feel like nothing aside from Bloodshot, Harbinger, and potential Harbinger Wars films.
Okay.
Movies.
I gotta shut up.
That's it. I don't think I've seen anything else about the Valiant stuff, which is frustrating because I feel like we get a lot of updates on a lot of other properties and things. And with this, and I think a lot of that probably had to do with the fact that Sony was looking for some new studio to come in and take this property off their hands, or a part of this property off their hands to develop
Who
it.
knows? This honestly could be a DMG thing too.
Yeah.
Because I know DMG is gonna want to hold the rights to those characters. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing if DMG comes in, what can I say? I can say that I know that DMG coming in also led to us not doing a show anymore because they had to tighten the reins. They just bought this IP. They want to know where the hell all their IP was.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you mean this Twitch channel has some of our IP?
Huh?
You know what I mean? Yeah. You know.
It is what it is. It is what it is. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. It's so frustrating with these like comic book graphic novel adaptation things because some studios, they get them and they're like, cool, we're making a show, we're making a movie, we're doing something with it, we're actively making something. With Sony, it's just like, well, we're doing Bloodshot. Well, what about all the other things that you want? I don't know.
Somebody just said something in the chat, and I hope it's not true. Because if it's true, I might just rage off the show. We don't know yet the deal between Sony and Marvel and what they've agreed to for the future, but somebody said that Sony can't use Zendaya, MJ in future.
Oh, I think that's nonsense.
Okay.
Because those are characters created for the movie.
I feel like
that
they
are
can use what's
connected-
in the movie,
Yeah.
even if Marvel helped create it.
Yeah, that's
Even
fine.
if Marvel helped create that character for Sony.
It's a Sony movie that Marvel made.
That's what makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's fine. I saw some of that stuff in Hyper Heroes, and I think Hector brought that up too in our show this past week. But anything that's related to Spider-Man in those Spider-Man movies, unless it's probably Tony Stark or any references to the
Happy's
Avengers.
going to be the most interesting one.
Yeah.
That's going to be the one that's really tricky.
And let's be honest, yeah, they'll make mentions about Mysterio and what he did to Spider-Man.
More to Steel, don't state things like they're fact unless you know they're fact, bro. Back up your sources. Where are your sources on this, More to Steel? Don't just say stuff in the chat like it's the truth if you don't know. Show me some sources. I'm gonna freak out if you're, where's your proof?
I've not seen any...
Have you read the contract?
I've not seen any single trade report that. So if it's just some rumor you're reading on a forum, it's likely not true.
The amount of people who tweet at me on Twitter with stuff that I'm like, just opening the head, I'm like, you just sent me like clickbait. This isn't real.
Yeah.
Do your research.
If it doesn't come from a trusted source, I don't, 1, read it, 2, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
It's got to come from someone really reliable.
Citation needed, damn it. Sorry. Ah!
I mean, damn, it's probably like the most
Expressing your frustration with this.
This is a bad idea. This is my
Bad baby, bad baby.
This is my curse hammer. Son of a
There you go.
Ah!
I'll get you an inflatable one that squeaks next time.
You're gonna start smashing kaiju toys just to deal with your frustration. No, you can't source a YouTube
Midnight's
channel.
Edge. Yeah, have they read the
You
contract?
can't source a YouTube channel. You have to source.
Don't
Hollywood
even
Reporter,
don't even
Variety.
source us. If we tell you something, it's
We're
probably
not a news channel.
It's
so.
probably bullcrap.
Look, here's the thing.
Bullcrap's a stupid word.
Yeah,
it's probably bullshit.
Baloney.
Bullshit sounds better. It feels better in my mouth.
Wow. Well, that's a thought. Yeah, if you're gonna cite any sort of news source, it has to be something reliable, some sort of industry trade, and not some YouTube channel in the middle of like Wisconsin. I'm sorry.
Yeah, seriously, don't cite YouTube as your reference.
Yeah.
We're theorizers. We're not the news.
No.
Y'all. We're not the news. We theorize. We're not reporters. We're not journalists.
You know what's funny?
We're giving our opinions on things.
When we
and most of you think those opinions are trash, and that's how it should be.
Hey, you want to talk about Joker? Yeah.
No, I don't.
So when we're at superhero news, the amount of people who get mad at us when we would like give our opinion, and we'll give our opinion based on either rumors or things that trades would report. They're like, well, your channel is called Superhero News. I'm like, yeah, but we're not a trade. We're not Superhero News, the online like #1 news source. Like, we're not some stuff. So that was frustrating dealing with that. Thankfully, with Hyper Heroes, because it doesn't have the word news anywhere
Don't put
near
news
it.
in there. That's a standard I don't want to uphold.
No. Oh, never. Like, I'm also not interested in being a news source. I'm not interested in that scoop game. Like, I don't give a shit. There goes my one. Hey, look, you know what? If Captain America Civil War can get away with it, we can get away with it.
Not on YouTube.
Yeah, apparently not.
Not on YouTube.
Yeah,
the
whatever.
kids with their Minecraft, you gotta keep them happy.
Yeah, thanks, Google.
Gotta keep those advertisers happy. We gotta start thinking of really creative curse words that the algorithm won't catch.
Fiddlesticks.
Oh man, everything I put together in my head, I'm like, that's disgusting. I can't say it. That'll still get caught. So went down a little trip in there.
Yeah. Oops.
Nope, all those are
You're
bad.
just like click, 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 click. Nope,
All
nope,
those are bad.
nope. But yeah, do you want to talk about Joker? How won the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival?
Congratulations, that's awesome actually.
There you go.
Okay, whatever. I'm excited to see the movie. I just hope I'm wrong about everything.
Look, man.
I want to see the movie.
Everyone has so many opinions about that movie. Everything that I've read.
I was a
in terms-
trendsetter.
Well, in terms of everything I read, never mind. In terms of everything I read about the movie so far, no one has brought up any sort of like issues
Good.
that we discussed.
Good.
There were a couple people who maybe hinted towards those things, but
Not outright.
I haven't really seen enough for me to be like, well, this movie's going to send a bad message. But we'll see. We have a month before it comes out.
Well,
It's
the sad thing with art is sometimes it's not the movie itself that's the message; it's the people who interpret it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Fight Club, for instance.
Yeah.
For instance, like it becomes something bigger than what the artist intended and used in a way the artist never intended. And I think the thing that sucks sometimes with me is being able to recognize what things will get used that way, even though it was never the artist's intent.
Yeah.
And I do think, even though some people will say, like, that's censorship, no. Being a good artist is being able to assume how you want something to be interpreted and get the interpretation you want. Knowing full well, you probably won't, and there will always be outliers. But if a general consensus of something gets changed from your original purpose, you might feel failed as an artist. That's not censorship, that's just like, as an artist, you want your work to speak in a way, to be discovered in a way that has the voice you want.
Yeah.
And sometimes I hate that you can see certain stuff and be like, oh, sucks that certain people are gonna take it that way and they're gonna make it that. Because that's the last thing you want as an artist.
Thankfully, most of the stuff that I've seen, people are like, it's really great, it's really dark, it's really like gruesome and it's nuts, but it's good. And I'm like, well, I don't know what that means. I'm just gonna have to wait a month before I see it. So yeah, I don't know. My whole stance on this movie, and more or less every other movie for the most part, is I glance at the reviews, I read a couple, and then I kind of close them off in a databank, and I'm like, great, I'm just gonna wait to see this movie. Because there have been so many movies that I've seen that critics have been like, it's amazing, and I watch them like, that's fine.
Yeah.
That happened also last year with Halloween. Like, I was super excited about Halloween, and it had like a standing ovation at the Toronto International Film Festival and all this stuff. And then it came out and I watched it, I was like, that's fine. Like, it's not as good as the original, but it's good. I didn't think it was like that incredible.
I feel like that, well, I guess it's just my friend group.
Sure.
I didn't like It Chapter 2.
Right.
And everyone around me did. And I'm like, I didn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was like, I think we both agree that It Chapter 1 is a much better movie.
I loved It Chapter 1.
I loved It Chapter 1. It Chapter 2, I was like, I like it. It's, as a conclusion, I'm like, I'm fine with it. It didn't blow me away like the first one did. Yeah, it was fine.
My biggest complaint was just that it was too Stephen King, which Lucas has said that's what he liked about it.
Yeah.
So I can understand that. If you're a huge Stephen King fan, it might be like, yes, it's more like the book. My biggest problem was the first one I felt like a fresh take, and the second one felt like a return to form, in the form being Stephen King's book. And I'm kind of burn out on it, I guess, as a person who loves horror and watches a ton of Stephen King. But there's other people who love that and want more of it. I don't have any issues with the film that are... Like, sometimes when you're giving your opinions on things, it's based on a feeling, and people's feelings are valid one way or another. I came out of It Chapter 2 being kind of like, Like, it's never a good sign for me when I'm watching something if towards the end I keep going, is it over yet? That lets me know, I guess I'm not really vibing with this movie. There's certain scenes I really love, and certain, like, Bill Hader's just, mwah, he's so good. I love Bill Hader in this movie. I think for me, it was just, from a technical standpoint, the pacing got to me a little bit. And
it's also much longer than the first one.
It's much longer. The pacing got to me, and I think the pacing got to me because the structure was very different. Whereas I felt like the scares in the first one felt fresh, and this felt really formulaic.
I'll be completely honest with you. When we watch the first trailer and we see Beverly go to the house or the apartment where her dad lived, in the trailer, that was terrifying. In the movie, I was like, oh, it's exactly how it's edited in the trailer, and there's nothing creepy about it. Even the reveal of like the monster, I was like,
it felt really formulaic to me. Even the way they break down when those scares are gonna happen and how they happen. My favorite scene, to not give anything away, I thought was the Bill Hader scene outside with the Paul Bunyan and the clown thing.
That was cool.
Because I thought that was a fresh take on some things we were seeing. Everything else was like a callback to the creativity of the first one with a couple new things in there, but it felt really formulaic to me. Whereas the first one, I was just like, whoa, feel the surprise.
I think it was so unnecessary to de-age those kids.
that stuff also from a technical
That was
standpoint.
so hard to look
the
at
ADR
sometimes.
and the CG faces on the
Yeah.
kids took me completely out of the movie.
Yeah.
I was just like, well, oh, I'm back in the theater now.
And I understand from the perspective of trying to maintain the continuity. I also don't think it's that big of a deal. You know, like we as an audience accept the fact that like, oh, this is a movie that came out 2 years after the first one, and even though the story is supposed to sort of take place during the same amount of time, it's fine. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm fine with Jack Dylan Grazer being 3 inches taller. Who cares? But his ADR, whoever ADR'd him, it was weird.
I could have honestly done without any of the flashbacks to the kids, which is weird because when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, I hope we get to have more time with the kids.
Yeah, there's only
then
certain things I would have been fine with seeing, but other stuff I'm
It's
like,
so
why is this
weird
in
to have
here?
the first movie be so strong with the
Yeah.
kids, and then the worst scenes in this one are the kids' scenes.
It was weird. The
That's
chemistry
weird.
was not there like it was in the first one.
Because I don't think they were there. I
Yeah.
think there was like actors maybe not available. Because like you said, some of the ADR sounded like a different person entirely.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it didn't have the same like charisma and like group vibe.
Yeah.
When it flashed back to those kids scenes, it felt so forced and took me
Yeah,
out.
there was something missing, and I brought it up to you in Chapter 1. So Cary Fukunaga, who did True Detective. Yeah. He's now currently shooting the new Bond movie. He was supposed to direct it, Chapter 1, and he actually wrote the script, or one draft of the script. I think the one that's probably closest to what was their shooting script. And he's completely not present in it, Chapter 2 in terms of the writing. It was just one writer for this one, as opposed to having really 3 people tackle it, Chapter 1. So I don't know if he came into it being like, look, I want to take the general sort of like, I want to take the It story, but I don't want to make it as Stephen King as it is in the book. I want to sort of adapt it and modernize it and do different things with it, where I think maybe with Chapter 2, him not being there, they kind of lost a little bit of that. So
Maybe.
I don't know, but I don't know. I have no insight into the production of this movie, but I'm still excited to see Andy Muschietti tackle The Flash, because I still think he's a good director.
This is such a hilarious comment to me. WB ADR is inferior to Disney's. What does that mean?
Okay. Okay. I don't know what that means, but all right.
As a whole, pretty much all WB movies have subpar ADR compared to the Studio Disney.
Look, man, I think most ADR is kind of jank.
Yeah, I don't mean to pick. Actually, I will say from a sound standpoint, good ADR is like you know the VFX world. I know a little bit more about the sound world. ADR is everywhere, in every movie you watch, and good ADR, like good VFX, you never know the ADR was done. It's
No.
around you all the time,
Yeah.
and you have no idea.
Yeah.
You only notice it when it's bad.
Yeah,
But it's in every movie you watch.
I mean, the amount of ADR that's done in like action sequences, which makes sense. A lot of times you're like, man, this has so much ADR. Then other times you're like, I would have never been able to tell. You know?
Yeah. Yellow Flash, just to give you a little bit of the studios, WB versus Disney, have almost nothing to do with the ADR in the films. No. Each individual creative team is going to have a different set of people that they're working with, and some will have their own thoughts and preferences on those things. That has almost nothing to do with the studios. Each film is going to have different sound studios they work with, sound designers. You could probably track, just like directors, there are people who direct the sound, the post-processing for those things, who direct the sound performances. There are directors for those ADR booths. You could follow those people more and probably find some trends and things. Yeah. If you watch a movie and you didn't notice there ever being ADR, figure out who did the sound directing for that and follow them, because that means they did a great job, because it was present.
Or it's a Christopher Nolan movie and he just uses all the audio from the set, which sometimes is not a good thing.
Well, when you're Christopher Nolan and you can clear out all of downtown Los Angeles, good for you.
Well, that's always not always
you.
a good thing, because sometimes you watch this movie, you're like, I don't understand what this character's saying.
But good for you, dude, that you can do that. Most movies can't, and anytime you see a scene that's taking place outside, they recorded audio on the day, but they're most likely going to ADR every bit of it. Every bit of it.
There was some movie... Oh, actually, I think it's Avengers Endgame. Like, there's a lot of ADR in that movie. Sometimes you can tell, sometimes you can't. But because so much stuff was like shot all over the place, and there's like stand-ins for certain actors and all kinds of stuff. Sometimes you can tell because it's like an over-the-shoulder shot and like nothing is happening here, but the character's talking, and you're like, ah, whatever. But yeah, I mean, ADR is just another tool set.
Another tool. Some people do it so well, you never know what's happening.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the actors too. Like it's not just up to the like there's certain things if the actor can't do it, it's gonna be bad, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
I've ADR'd a couple things, and it's really hard. Some people are trained in how to be good actors, but they're not trained in how to throw their voice a certain way.
Yeah.
And having that control over your voice perfectly, I know.
That class this weekend.
Oh, you are taking a class like that?
Yeah.
There are certain people who get hired to do ADR for actors because they're better at it than the actors themselves.
Yeah.
They're voice actors who can replicate their voice and can do a better job at ADR matching than the actor can themselves. Or it's cheaper. That happens too sometimes. Sometimes you'll have people who get hired to be the voice of someone in ADR because they can't afford to bring back the actor for more work. So,
Can we pay Robert Downey Jr. $50,000 to come in for 2 hours? Probably not.
probably not. We're still smoothing out his face over here in post. It's costing us a fortune.
Which that's true. He has had his face smoothed over quite a few Marvel
Every movie
movies.
since Iron Man 1,
Yeah.
I swear to God.
Yeah.
And now they have to uphold that image when he's in other studios' films.
He's gonna start looking real old to some people. Yeah, especially in Avengers. Man.
What is ADR? Yep, as we already said, additional dialogue replacement. So for those that don't know, ADR is something along the lines of, say, right now I'm talking to Adam, but the dog starts barking. And we're like, God, you know, before we export this to YouTube, that point that I made, it was just so...
It was a banger.
It was a banger. We want to make sure it's in there. Gotta get that dog out of there. We're gonna do some recording of the tonal aspects of this room really quick, and then we're gonna re-record that line of dialogue, and I'm gonna try to match up the movement of my mouth to seamlessly put that audio in with the visual to where it feels like it all happened at once. We're able to pull out that sound that happened in the background. It's a last stage resort for most filmmakers, and any film, it's the last thing you wanna do. It's expensive, it's time consuming, and very hard to get it right. A lot of stuff though, you're gonna see it a lot in big studio films because it might be cheaper than, like I said, closing off an entire street. So you're gonna get a ton of background noise if you're in the streets of New York. There's so much noise, you want your cuts to move together smoothly. So you're gonna pull out that audio, you're gonna bring it into the studio, have your actors redo all of their lines so you can put an underlying soundtrack of the location without hearing the cuts going on in between them. That's what it's used for.
Do we need an It Chapter 3? We're not getting one. There's no reason to make it.
Yeah,
they did the
it's
whole
done.
book, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
There was never any intention on doing a third one. They've talked about doing a prequel with Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise, and kind of a little bit of somewhat...
He's a great Pennywise.
Yeah. Doing somewhat of a prequel origin story of Pennywise. Do I need it? No. Honestly, if they would have just made it like some sort of short film on the Blu-ray, that would have been fine too. Do I really need a 2-hour movie? No. But am I gonna say no to seeing Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise again? No.
No.
Put it on HBO Max. Put it on HBO Max as like some original thing. You know, I think that'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Or an original series, like if it's 6 episodes, just Pennywise. That would be interesting to me. But I don't know if I necessarily would need that as a theatrical movie.
You know, today on Comics and Coffee, we talked about ADR,
The justification of prequels?
cursing.
Yeah, oh, God, my God.
You know, we're going to talk about comic books. Totally.
Eventually.
Totally.
We'll get to it.
Do you have any more to add to this conversation before we move over to comic books? Anything else in the news this week that you thought might be fun to talk about on this little chill out moment?
We did launch a new podcast. If you're on Patreon, if you're part of the Hyper Homies tier or higher, we launched a Titans podcast where every week myself, Augustine, and Hector are going to talk about every episode of season 2 of Titans. And if that continues to go well, like it has been, then
I'm so proud
you
of
might
those
see
boys.
new stuff.
I'm so proud of those boys. I've been trying to get this whole group to do more TV stuff for so long now.
Yeah.
I didn't want to rub it in your face when a lot of your audience was like, finally, you're talking about TV. And I'm like, you know, not without trying. Not without trying, y'all.
We've had people for years ask us about TV stuff, and like my big thing is I don't want to commit to 23 episodes of The Flash for 10 months.
Look,
It's
Adam,
too long.
do you have sleeping problems?
I used to, less now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dang it. I was going to say yes. Oh, well, fill that time with how Malika and I fill our time. Watch hours and hours of pointless TV that a month later you'll forget that you watched.
Well, where do you watch The Flash, though?
I stopped watching.
But where did you watch it?
Amazon Prime.
They have the new episodes?
I would usually just buy a season.
Yeah, see, I don't want to commit
But
to
you
that.
have access to my account.
Yeah, I guess. But this is the nice thing about DC Universe is like, I can watch everything on there. It's all available.
Anything that costs money, I stopped watching because I'm broke.
I mean, that makes sense.
So I haven't watched a lot of those shows that I used to buy. I don't watch them anymore.
I mean, yeah, I personally, I'm not interested in 23 episode investments anymore. I'm past that.
Interesting.
I like anything that's like 8 to 12 or 13 episodes. That I'm happy to do because it's not asking me to commit 10 months of my life. It's like, here's 10 weeks, great. Or if it's a Netflix thing, they drop it all at once and I can watch it over the course of 2 days and I can just kind of like absorb it, live with it, and then move it out of my system. A lot of those CW shows also just kind of get repetitive.
They do.
I like watching the crossovers.
There's some of them, what I like about them, especially for the DC shows, outside of Arrow, and Arrow has its moments, don't get me wrong. Sometimes there's moments on Arrow where the choreography with the shots surprises the shit out of me. You saw the broke comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's 100% true. Arrow surprised me sometimes because I know that they're on such a tight timeline that when I see what their production team is able to pull off for choreography with the shot, I'm impressed. Yeah. Because I know that they're under very strict go timelines, and it's impressive what they're pulling off when they have to do that many episodes under that level of budget restraints with that time restraint. I'm impressed from a technical standpoint, but I also like they have a feeling of hopeful aspects that is missing from a lot of DC content. Yeah. And I like Supergirl, Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow because it's the DC I want in the movies, but not as high production, obviously. I like that aspect. I feel like the TV shows are doing a better job of representing what I felt DC always represented in comic books, which is larger than life gods among men. People who live by a different set of rules and have to find the humanity and everything, because outside of Batman, everyone was basically like, they were supposed to be gods among men. Marvel was supposed to be the life out your window. DC was like what you could aspire to be. And when I was younger, that didn't appeal to me as much. I wanted the life out my window because I had nothing out my window but trees. And now with DC, as I age, I like some of those aspects of DC. I want the more like, things are dark and grim right now in the news. I want the Superman. You know, and I think Supergirl is a great show for that regard. You know, it's dealing with a lot of topical subjects and it's asking, how do we be better? And how do we be the best human beings that we can be? And I think that stuff's really fun. Yeah,
I honestly wish that those shows would move into 13 episode, actually probably could even in 11, 12 episodes. I would love it if they would do half a season of like Arrow, Flash, half a season Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and then in the between that do a big crossover that kind of kicks off. It's just easy. It's just easy to digest. And like as we move farther and farther away from traditional television and more into streaming, to me that just works better, and I get that like that's not where everyone's at.
I will say that I feel like the CW shows feel more like TV 10 years ago.
They do.
And I don't know if that's a bad thing, and it may be why they're performing well. Because they're still, for what they are, I think they're doing well. For what they are.
Sure.
You know, like, come on, it's compared to the stuff that's on HBO, you know what I mean? Like that stuff is on another level.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think somebody needs to be filling that gap of content that if you miss a couple episodes, it's okay. You know, old school TV, you got a lesson at the beginning of the episode, you gotta, you know, it's like, here's our theme. And I think Supergirl does that really well. I think at times, The Flash became too reliant on one long storyline, and that actually hurt the show, because some of those shows, it's best when it's like, oh, I missed 3 weeks. What's on TV tonight? Oh, new episode of Flash? Yeah, I'll check it out. I get, it's The Flash. I know what to expect, you know?
The one superhero show that I felt like did 22, like a full season extremely well, where I was engaged week to week and it was consistently building upon story, was Heroes season 1. That was like unlike anything.
But go back and watch it now. Those CW shows are just as good.
No, I'm sure.
It hasn't aged as well as I wanted it to.
Really?
I went back and watched it. I was like, this was so needed when it happened.
Yeah.
Whew. There's some great moments.
Yeah.
And some great stuff in there. The writing at times is
Yeah.
on
I mean,
point.
and there's also moments that I'm like, well, this was disappointing. Like the finale where Sylar and Peter face off, and you're like, nothing really happens.
Nope.
And you're like,
nothing at all.
all right, cool. Well, okay. We built up to this big thing, and Peter just blows up, and that's it. All right. But yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah, but yeah, you had 13 years to watch that show.
Yeah, it doesn't hold up as well as I want, and I think every show learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
But we're on another level of TV right now, and I think one of the reasons I've wanted you guys to talk about TV for so long is there's stuff being made that just the comic book fan in me is like, Deadly. We had Deadly Class, and yeah, it only lasted one season, but we had Deadly Class on Sci-Fi.
Yeah, for sure.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
I got to see a Nicaraguan assassin take acid. You know, like
Yeah.
well, it's crazy that we're living in this kind of time when just this stuff is getting made.
Well, it's possible now too, because
Yeah.
it's like there's so much opportunity because there's so many places to put this stuff. I mean, look at Krypton. Yeah, it no longer has a life on Sci-Fi. Nothing to say that it couldn't have a second life on DC Universe, potentially HBO Max in the future. Same thing with Swamp Thing. Like, yeah, you know, now it doesn't exist anymore, but maybe HBO Max in the future could help bring that back. So we're doing that now. Those are Patreon exclusives. If you join the $5 tier, you'll get first access or any of the higher tiers. And we hope that grows enough that, you know, there was a question asking what are the things we want to cover. If y'all ever heard of Disney Plus, it's a big streaming service that's coming out in November.
What?
And they're launching with a lot of new shows and movies across Star Wars and Marvel and Nat Geo and Disney proper and all that sort of stuff. We want to cover a lot of those things. And as things like HBO Max come out, and now we've had CBS All Access, Netflix, we want to cover as much of it as we can. And, you know, if you guys are into it, then that's how that's going to grow. And it won't just be us. You know, we're doing Titans now, but we want, like, I would love to have Zach do a show that he's really excited about and passionate about.
Oh, I'll be watching all of it.
Yeah.
I don't sleep.
Yeah, so, you know,
we
want to bring on the whole crew, basically, to have a chance to have a podcast about a show that they're super passionate about. And it doesn't have to be, like, it could be a cooking show on Netflix, or it could be a travel show.
I call Hawkeye.
That's fine.
That's like 3
You
years
got 3 years, bud. Oh, that was another thing, was the casting for that. It's not confirmed.
It's not confirmed.
But it looks like Haley Steinfeld has been offered the role of Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye series.
I don't want to upset any of my Power Rangers friends, because I know a lot of them are vying for the Power Ranger on the current season, who is so hard on Twitter trying to convince people she should be in the next Kate Bishop. But Marvel, pull the trigger on that, because that girl is phenomenal and is going to be everywhere. And this is why. I mean, it's just like, she's amazing.
Cut the check!
Just do it. Hire her. Get her. Go. Do it. She's amazing.
So good. I'm excited. I'm excited to see sort of what comes of that whole thing, and I think it's going to be a really good series. But yeah, so if you guys are interested in us doing more shows and you want to see that sort of be successful and you want to flourish and you want to see more of that type of content, I'm really into the idea of leaning more into podcast stuff, because podcasts are very easy for us to produce. When it comes to having to edit.
I love that he says that, but once Disney Plus comes out and we're asking him to do 5 podcasts a week, he's gonna be like, this is ridiculous.
I mean, last week's episode of Titans, it only took me 45 minutes to put it out. So,
that's pretty good.
You know, as opposed to Hyper Heroes episodes, which take me upwards of 2 hours, 3 hours, because I gotta make all the graphics, I gotta make all the lower thirds. The render time takes forever.
It takes you way longer than that. Don't lie, you work on it all weekend.
Well, it depends, because sometimes I'll work on it for like 45 minutes and I'm like, cool, I need a break. And then I'll walk away from it. So it really depends. But also it sucks because it's like, I gotta do a version for Patreon, then I gotta do another version for YouTube, and then I gotta make the thumbnail. It's just, there's a lot involved. Whereas a podcast, it's like, you can just kind of like put them out and it's not as big of a commitment. And I don't know, I feel like we need to have a bigger podcast presence, to be just completely honest.
Yeah, and if you do like podcasts, Kolak 1991 is available anywhere. You can search for it in any of your favorite podcast apps and download it immediately and start listening. If you haven't yet,
just search Hyper RPG on pretty much any platform that has a podcast, and you'll find everything.
We put a lot of stuff out on podcast. I'm really happy with Kolak, though. We work really hard to make it sound really good as a podcast.
Does Alex do that for you?
No.
Oh.
No, but I worked really hard. I mean, we changed everything based on how we do things downstairs, so it would be better as a podcast. Yeah. Demoon Rules does all of our podcast stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. He's great. So, should we talk about comic books?
Comic books.
Let's talk about the comics. Like I said, I was excited about all the books I read this week. I'm excited to talk to you about some of these.
Yeah.
There were a lot. And I picked up a bunch of trades that I'm going to read throughout the week that I'm really pumped about. And I didn't get a chance to read them today because I wanted to read as many single issues as I could.
Yeah.
But I was really happy with a lot of what I read. Adam was not, so I could not wait to break it down.
I feel like I overstated.
This was just working. Was just working. It was just working.
What kind of bad word is Zach gonna pull out of his pocket today? So while Zach fixes that, I'm gonna continue to ramble a little bit about podcast stuff or Patreon stuff. I'm also working on merch for Hyper Heroes. I teased some stuff on Twitter. So if you're interested in Hyper Heroes t-shirts, they're coming very soon. If you're part of Patreon, you will have first dibs, and we will have some exclusive merch on Patreon that you'll only be able to get there that I'm actually really excited for. And some of it came through suggestions from the community. So thank you guys. If you have any ideas for a shirt or design, tweet it at me, and I'll consider designing them. Because we really need merch. The fact that we've had a show for almost 2 years and we don't have merch is kind of sad.
We're really bad at making merch for all our shows.
Yeah, but we're gonna start having a lot of stuff.
People ask us for it all the time, and then I make it, and we sell like one thing.
I feel like you guys have been selling Kolak stuff, no?
Yes and no.
Yes and no?
Yes and no.
I've had a lot of people ask me about colors of shirts, and I'm like, all right, well, cool. At least now I know what colors I need to go for Hyper Hero shirts, so people actually wear them.
People like black shirts, we've learned.
They do! We personally
love to wear bright color shirts here, and we'll make a bright color shirt, and it won't sell any, and people will only buy the black shirts.
Look, I definitely have an orange Hyper Hero shirt coming out, because like that's what the logo looks like. It's blue, gold, and orange. And people are already like, oh, black and white, black and white. I'm like, God damn it, just get the orange one, man. Come on.
Let me give you all some fashion tips. Don't take fashion tips from me, don't do it. I look like a bum 90% of the week. Me getting dressed up for Kolak I'm better dressed for that show than I was my own wedding. Like, I am so bad. I don't.
And most of the shirts you wear are our shirts.
I don't care. I'm married, old, tired. I don't care.
I have the same 5 shirts on rotation, so it's fine.
Malika says, shout out to Indochino. That's right, we have a suit sponsorship. That's why I get to look good on Mondays. Should we talk about this book? Zorro, Rise of the Old Gods.
#1.
I picked this up, so I usually pick out the comics that we buy, because I just go through it.
I kind of feel like you should, I feel like on Tuesday nights, I should look through. I feel like you buy way too much.
I see stuff that's DC, and I'm like, Adam would probably want this.
I know, but I feel bad because I feel like you buy so much, and some of it I don't get to.
Well, last night, because I kept checking, these didn't finally go for sale until 2:30 a.m.
Oh, geez, really?
Yeah, I kept checking. I was reading, and I kept going back, and it wasn't until 2:30 a.m.
Yeah.
So I could have come and woke you up if you wanted.
Yeah.
So, I saw this on the store, Zorro, and it was a #1, and then I read Zorro, and I was just skimming really quickly and saw Dread Cthulhu, and I was like, oh, bye. Adam will love it, bye. This is weird.
Did you know I'm a fan of Zorro?
I did.
Okay, cool. Because there was another Zorro comic that came out, and I remember it was like a month ago or something, and I was like, damn, I wish we had the Zorro comic book, because I totally would have read it. And I don't know, maybe if that's what you remembered that I mentioned, or you just saw it and you're like, oh, I know he watched the movie recently.
No, you talk about Zorro all the time, whether you realize it or not.
Cool. Perfect.
Like, I love Zorro. I'm your friend, Adam. I listen to you.
I know.
All right.
But you also do 5,000 things throughout the day, so I figure you forget eventually.
I forget a lot of stuff.
But Zorro, he remembers. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Zorro. So I grew up watching Zorro black and white stuff on Disney. I watched all the movies and stuff. I'm a really big fan of Zorro. Obviously, that character was a huge inspiration for things like Batman and a lot of superhero stuff. This was crazy though. So obviously the cover kind of sets it up, but the way that's played on the comic book for the beginning portion, you meet Don Diego de la Vega, and he's sort of at this gathering, this event, and he spots someone in the crowd that doesn't really fit. And while he's trying to find out who this person is, the whole party is ambushed, and these guys are looking for something, and they find something. And Don Diego de la Vega obviously runs off. He turns into Zorro, and he tries to save the day. The bad guys get away, and you all of a sudden cut to a scene of this horrendous vision with these disgustingly crazy, gross-looking monsters, and it's dope as hell. And I turned the page, and I saw this.
Wait, because you do panel.
No, for this I didn't.
Oh.
For this I didn't. I started reading panel to panel, and then I didn't. So I got this page, and I tapped, and it went page over, and I went, what the?
Zorro!
I freaked out when I saw it. I was like, this is insane. I don't know what.
That looks like the monster from the current Hulk run.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It was bananas, and I was completely I didn't even know what to think at this point. But then things happen, and you're like, oh, this is not exactly what I think it is. And then it ends off on a little bit of a cliffhanger, and it's exactly what you think it is, and I'm like, this is pretty rad. I want to see where this goes, and I want to know how, who, what, where, when, why, and what the thing that they were looking for, how it ties into this. It was a really fun read. I really liked it. I actually played the soundtrack to Mask of Zorro while I read this, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. So if you like Zorro and you're interested in just sort of exploring the Zorro comic book world and what they're doing, it's really, really fun. It was a lot more violent than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah. No.
There's one part before all the crazy stuff happens where a character gets stabbed with a sword. I'm like, oh, this is actually bloody and gory. This is gonna go places. So I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Nice. The Wonder Twins.
Wonder Twin powers
The Wonder
activate.
Twins.
This is a really fun, kooky comic book. Told from the perspective of the Wonder Twins, and if you were a fan of the Super Friends from the 70s, it really sort of embraces all that and it modernizes it in a bit. This opening segment with this reporter of just kind of going off and ranting and talking about hockey and riots and all that stuff, and him just kind of being ridiculous and over the top, really fits the tone of this comic book because it is from the perspective of the Wonder Twins, so it's told in a more lighthearted, comedic, fun fashion where Xander and Jane are sort of recounting the events and things that they've done, and it's just a really fun comic book.
Looks fun.
And it drops some nuggets that could potentially be explored later that deal with sort of the backstory of these characters and what's gone on. Long story short, though, the Hall of Justice is now open to tours, and so Xander and Jane are now the tour leaders and stuff. And while they're giving a tour, they find out that them as tour guides and then the guests of the Hall of Justice find out there's a meteor coming to Earth and all this sort of stuff. So it's just a really fun, quirky comic book, and they make references to hockey riots, which for me is really, really fun.
That's what wins you over.
Yeah, that's what won me over immediately. So it's a really fun read. I don't know how much of it is tied into the greater DC comic book world, or if it's really just sort of meant to be its own one-off set of stories or run. But it's fun, and I like seeing the Wonder Twins. I feel like they don't really get as much airtime in the DC comic books. Maybe it's when it's only particular runs and stuff like that, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun read.
So I checked this one out.
Yeah.
Venom number 18, Absolute Carnage tie-in.
Yeah.
Donny Cates obviously back on Venom now, and this is kind of his baby. So he's setting up, I think, the stage for the future and everything. My favorite part of this book was the first half, and I think it did this really fun thing. I guess I'm just gonna ruin for you. It introduces an entirely new character, or at least this character showed up in 2011 or something like that. And I couldn't remember it because it was from the other Venom tie-in. For those that don't know, in the Absolute Carnage storyline, Carnage, any person who ever merged with the symbiote has a part of that symbiote still stuck in their DNA, and they're calling it their codex, their DNA codex. And Carnage is basically ripping the spines out of these people and eating them to regain that codex and bring all of the symbiotes back together as one for Lord Null, the Black God. So the god of the symbiotes, Null, once freed, and Carnage is his device to do so. So they're introducing all these people who ever touched a symbiote. This character traveled through space, time, all this stuff, found the planet of Null, the symbiote planet, learned what Null wants, and was coming back to Earth to find Eddie Brock, the original host on Earth, to warn him and get him ready. And he's who saved Eddie's son, who doesn't know he's Eddie's son, who thinks he's Eddie's little brother. That's a weird thing. From the symbiotes in the last issue. And just sets up this whole new character. You learn all this stuff about him, all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. Yada yada. Oh, he's actually a dead alien a dead Kree soldier on the inside of that symbiote, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
Pretty cool. Oh, apparently the Twitch stream's messing up, but the YouTube side's fine.
I just put it on and it looks fine on my end.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe try refreshing. It's
That's
skipping?
gonna be something downstairs with the mirror then. He might need to be made aware. Because YouTube goes out from Restream, Twitch goes out from Amir downstairs, so somebody needs to check in with him. So yeah, set up this whole
Holy
character,
crap.
give him an entire background, storyline, everything, and then just be like, nah, he's dead. Totally done. Never gonna see that character again. Ah, gone. Totally done.
Okay.
So that's a fun setup. You know, that was my favorite part of the issue. I think from there, it's just kind of moving the story along. You get to know a little bit more about Little Normie and Eddie's kid and them trying to escape. And that's kind of the gist of it.
Yeah.
As a tie-in book, it's not bad. As continuing the Venom storyline, it's okay. Kind of feels like a filler issue a little bit.
Sure.
The book ends with the Avengers showing up to kind of help the kids and everything. So,
Oh, okay.
you know, it's
No big deal.
It's an event tie-in, so it is what it is. Unearthed #3, I haven't got a chance to read it yet, but I am going to because this is some good horror stuff that's coming out right now, and I've been really digging it. Gonna check it out. We both checked this out.
Yes. You know what I really wish, and I don't think this will ever happen because we just don't, just not possible here because we have so much stuff going on. I would love it if we could literally just spend one full day just reading everything from that week and just do an extended podcast about it. But it'll never happen.
You mean everything?
Yeah.
You know how expensive that is? Do you know how many
everything
books?
that you actually get.
Oh, okay. Okay, because I skip on 100. Have you looked at how many come out each week?
Oh, no, I know. It's
insane.
enormous numbers. No,
it's
I know.
insane.
That's why I was saying, I'm like, maybe I should just look at the list and be like, what am I actually really want to read? But I like this. This was a surprising one.
So Trees, I was telling Adam a little bit more about it after he read it. This is a continuation of a storyline that was going on. It's been on hiatus for a little while, and it's coming out now as a totally kind of side story to the main story. But I kind of like it because it's focused. For those that have been reading Trees from Warren Ellis, it's a very big story. There's a lot going on. It's on lots of different continents, and this seems like it's localized in Tosca, Russia, and the story of one town and how this one town is reacting to this tree. And I thought that was a smart move because it needed to be focused.
Yeah.
But it's good sci-fi. I think Trees, I have all the volumes. I have all of them. You could read them on Comixology.
Yeah.
You won't, but there's a lot there. Come on, you haven't read Thor yet. You haven't read Thor yet.
I read it today.
You read King Thor. We're gonna get to it. You don't jump all the way to King Thor without reading any of the God Butcher saga.
I didn't know that. It was good though.
It's so metal. I can't wait to talk about King Thor. So
I agree with Ronan. This does have a little bit of an Arrival vibe and feel to it.
Yeah. He's talking about Unearthed, not Trees.
Oh, I thought you were talking about. Oh, okay, never mind.
This does give me an Arrival feel too, though.
Yeah.
100%. Trees does. And last I heard, Trees was actually in development for TV.
Oh, really?
That was a year ago. I heard that. So who knows?
Yeah.
A lot of these things get picked up and then sit in development hell for years. Years and years. But it's a good book. Trees, all the volumes are available on Comixology. It's great. I think it's top-notch sci-fi.
The one thing that I really liked about it was, even though you're telling me there's so many things that have already happened in this like world prior to, I feel like it was done.
Oh, Hyper wants to know, who'd you hear from? Cite your sources. Hollywood Reporter. Warren Ellis was hired to put this in development, so Hollywood Reporter. You're welcome.
Boom, bam, boom. The one thing that I enjoyed about it, it doesn't try to over-explain anything. It just kind of like tells a story and then kind of turns into a little bit of like a mystery, or you kind of don't really know where it's trying to go. You know it's a sci-fi, but you're like, is it a mystery? Is it going to be just full science fiction? But I really enjoyed it. I really liked it.
It's good, and I think you should definitely check out the other Trees books. That's why I think it's great sci-fi.
Yeah.
Is it tells you just enough,
Yeah.
and it keeps you as in the dark as the characters are, and that's what I really love about it. Each country's perspective on the trees is different, and how they interact with it, and we're as ignorant as they are. I think that's great. Thumbs number 4. I'm still reading Thumbs. Didn't get a chance to read this issue. I'll update you all once I do. Did you read The Flash?
I did read The Flash. It's good. It seems like the Speed Force is dying out. A lot of our heroes are losing their abilities. Particularly, they mention obviously like Barry in particular in this issue. Wally's in this issue, and then Death is right around the corner from them. And then Captain Cold is recruiting some villains. He's on the search for somebody. It's his sister, spoiler. And we also have an unexpected casualty in this book. I don't really want to spoil it for you guys. It was fine. I think the biggest thing, and this is my sort of issue with a lot of DC books, unless it's deceased or anything that's kind of started recently, is without really knowing or following every single series, you can't really just jump in and know what's happening. You need the context of other books, and there's a lot of things that are being referenced from other books. In terms of it just being a singular story, it really is kind of like a nice, just like, this is what's happening. Things are kind of like hitting the fan, but you do, again, need sort of the context to understand what's happening in the greater universe. Like, why is the Speed Force dying out? Like, are these characters going to perish or lose their powers? Is there going to be some element of time travel involved? So, as a singular issue, I don't really have any problems with it. I just think if you really want to understand what's happening, you need to kind of be caught up with other things. This I did like, though. Supreme Leader Snoke, Age of Resistance #1.
What a chance for us to get to know anything about this character.
Kind of. Kind of. It honestly mostly focuses on Kylo Ren.
Tom Taylor put out a tweet this morning that was like, hey, for those wondering, this is about Snoke before his legs got chopped off when he was still one person, if you want to check it out.
So the whole idea about Age of Resistance, this whole comic book run, it focuses on different characters in the Star Wars universe, and it kind of gives us singular stories that take place throughout different parts of the timeline. I think if anything, what this does, it really gives you an insight into how evil and manipulative Supreme Leader Snoke is.
I like this first page. That's a great first page.
It's got really strong artwork. Really, really strong artwork. And I think that for me, I personally don't need to know the origin of Supreme Leader Snoke and where he came from and all that sort of stuff. I like that sort of left ambiguous, and I like the fact that Rian Johnson kind of didn't really address that, and it wasn't a concern of his. His focus was Kylo Ren. This book, even though Kylo Ren is such a predominant figure in this comic book, the important thing for me as a Star Wars fan is that it really shows you how manipulative Supreme Leader Snoke was, and how poisonous he was to Kylo Ren as a character, and how he really tries to fully break Kylo Ren from the light and just engulf him just in nothing but darkness. And I like that a lot.
Gives you some perspective on Kylo's relationship.
It does, and it really shows you how Kylo Ren as a character is constantly struggling between the light and the dark. And this has been revealed online. They end up going to Dagobah, and Kylo Ren feels the strong presence of Luke Skywalker and the training that happened on Dagobah with Luke and Yoda. And he has to confront some stuff. He has to confront things from his past, I'll say. I don't really want to spoil it.
All right,
Yes, just stop there. He confronts some stuff from the past, and you see the pull of Kylo between light and dark, and how Snoke really wants him to just go full evil. So I think it doesn't give you a lot of backstory on Snoke, but it gives you a lot about his character that you don't necessarily get in the movies and how evil he truly is. So for me, for that, I loved it.
Hell yeah. This book better win an Eisner. It's too good.
Yeah.
It is art.
Yeah.
And I'm trying really hard not to cuss right now because I want it. It's so good. It's just it's on another level. This is when you get to see creative teams come together like this to make a superhero book, no longer a superhero book, but just pure art.
Yeah.
It's a really cool thing to be a part of, to see, to be reading as each issue drops, to be a part of that journey. I'm just constantly blown away by the Donny Cates.
I just got like shivers just you turning on the first page. It's so good.
It's wild. It's just wild. Tradmore, Donny Cates, unreal.
I have a question for you. And I'm not saying this particular run, I'm not even like talking about necessarily the story happening in the comic books. If they were to ever adapt this into a show or movie or whatever, how do you visually translate this? Can you? Is it impossible?
After seeing Legion, yes. And I would want Noah doing it.
Noah Hawley?
Yeah.
Lucy in the Sky's coming out soon. We gotta go see that.
Because I think it's a lot of representation through, you know, I think a lot of it could be done metaphorically.
Sure.
But there's another part of me though that like
I just want this to live in a comic.
It's like we talked about when we talked about King Thor and how there's certain things where you're just like, this is why I love comic books. Yeah. Comic books are an art form. Not everything should be turned into a movie or a TV show.
Like Tut having a house.
Yeah. They are an art form in and of themselves. And when comic books are at their best, it's when they're doing something that only a comic book could do. It's a visual medium that is telling you a story through sequential images. And yes, movies do that too. And yes, comic books sometimes feel like they're literally storyboards for a movie. But I think when comic books are great, it's when they're doing something that a movie can't. Yeah. When they're playing with the way your eye dances around a page and how you follow that story.
I just like,
it's unreal.
And again, you know, like I haven't read this yet, but it's so visually striking, and everything from the color to the composition to just the drawings themselves, like, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like that graphic novel we read last week, where every page you could pull out of each issue and you could hang it up on a wall.
Yeah, I want that page.
Yeah,
I want
like,
this
look
page.
At this.
This is the birth. No, this is the death of Galactus in his original universe. Wow. At this point in the story, Norrinrad has reached into baby Norrinrad's back in time at the beginning of the universe. He's reaching into the incubator for baby Galactus to see what brought him to this universe, and it was the destruction of his last one. And this is how he interprets that part of his mind. Friggin' crazy, man. It's so good.
Damn, that's wild.
I know. And then we get to have him like actually have, oh, I love this too, this visual representation of their minds battling between the light and the dark, as Norrin wants to have a moment to speak directly to Galactus. And this is great. He's like, I want to see your face, your real face. And this, for me as a comic book fan of Galactus, this was such a great like moment. All of the like epicness of this. And that page, look at that page. Look at that page. Look at it from top to bottom and how it flows and the color balance and the line work. This is art. This is masterful stuff, man. This is where comic books excel. Win all the awards. Just win them all. Ah, I love it. I love everything about it. You cannot go wrong with this book. Silver Surfer Black, pick it up. Pick it up. I'm so glad I've been reading this each issue and not waiting for the trade, because each one is like a little piece of candy that I'm unraveling. I'm like, I can't wait to taste it.
I just need to catch up, because this is issue
4 of 5. Yeah. There's only one more.
Okay. Well, then I can catch up easily. I got plenty of time.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh wow.
So good. I know. Every page.
How long before you get a tattoo of the Silver Surfer?
I won't. Malika might. When she finally, she'll wait for the trade and she's gonna read it and get all horny about it. She's got that little Silver Surfer figure on top of her monitor.
Oh yeah.
She's like the perfect man. Rat Queens, number 18. I did not get a chance to read this one yet, but Rat Queens is coming up tonight.
That's a perfect way to catch up.
Yeah, the perfect way to catch up. Check it out. I also did not get a chance to read Punisher Kill Crew. Cameron talked about the first one last time. I knew this was going to be a book he loved. I will say that cover is art.
It's ridiculous.
Again, comic books, man. This is only.
Can you imagine this is a movie poster in a theater? You'd be like, no, I'm confused.
No, comic books.
Yeah.
Only in comics can you get that.
It's wild.
Mainly with an established IP. Like you'll see stuff
Sure.
like this on Cartoon Network, maybe, possibly Adult Swim, but no, you won't. It's
No,
it's
I don't
crazy.
think so.
No, this is
You're
bonkers.
flipping through it. I'm like, no, I don't
This
think so,
is-
man. Yeah, you won't. You won't. You won't. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous in the best way possible.
I love it. I love it. I love it so much. Oh God. Okay, we're gonna. I don't want to. I want to read this later. I want to read this
my
later.
God.
God, I love it. Only in comics, man. That's what I mean, though. There's like certain things where I'm like, this is why I love comic books. It takes it takes your brain to a place that only a comic book can.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're gonna save Powers of X to talk about last. The Moon Knight Annual #1. This is part of their Acts of Evil run. They've been doing these annuals. They started last week with She-Hulk, which I did read. I caught up on this week.
Convenient.
It's great. And then there was Moon Knight, Acts of Evil. This is an interesting story. I don't know how I really feel about it yet. It's a different take on Moon Knight, and there's been so many takes on Moon Knight.
Yeah.
It's different in that it tries to tie him a lot more to the mythos. Well, mythos is always important for Moon Knight. What am I trying to say? I don't like Moon Knight when he feels more like a Batman.
Sure.
I like Moon
I
Knight
can
when he's
understand
more Moon Knight, which is crazy song.
Look,
You know, like,
I hate when any character that has anything to do with night or darkness or wearing black is like Batman.
right. And there are differences for sure, but
Yeah.
there's a moment in this where he's like going back in time to fight Kang, and every version of time there's a Moon Knight that helps him fight Kang. And it just, he feels less like crazy Moon Knight
Yeah.
and more like a normal kind of comic book character who has this power bestowed upon them and goes off on a mission. Fine and all. You know, it's an interesting setup, but it's not the Moon Knight that I enjoy. I prefer Moon Knight who's a little off his rocker and you
Yeah.
can't predict what he's gonna do or say and what's
Fair.
going on there. I like that Moon Knight. Where it's like not breaking the fourth wall like Deadpool, but
Yeah.
just like, this dude's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
What's gonna happen? Like a little bit of that Frank Castle in him.
Yeah.
Oh man, I didn't get a chance to read this week's Miles Morales. I want to. I will. There was a lot of stuff. It looks like you didn't get a chance to read Justice League Odyssey.
I didn't know.
So many books this week.
There was a lot.
I haven't read Loki #3 yet, but you hadn't read #2.
Yeah, I went back and I read 2 and I read 3.
Okay.
This, oh God, am I now confusing 2 and 3? Maybe I shouldn't have read these back to back.
I'll pull it up for you.
Pull it up, yeah, because I want to make sure that it is.
Because after this, we're talking about King Thor, and it's metal.
Yeah, it is. Go through.
I like Nightmare as a villain, though. I love that Nightmare's getting some more time as a villain.
Yeah, I don't. So my introduction to Nightmare will be, aside from the comic books, if I ever like really dive into the character, it will be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
Keep going. Is this the one where he goes to meet Tony Stark?
We are the children of eternity.
Oh, okay. So this was okay. So, oh God, it's so hard for me to like describe this without really understanding the lore of Marvel. But
Like Jotunheim.
dude,
He's the king of Jotunheim
it's
right now.
it's like it's Frosty the Snowman basically.
He put him in charge, right?
It's
of why he's
wild.
gone.
But they even give context as to like, my arms are made of this and my eyes are made of these stones. And I'm like, this is wild. Can you guys put Frosty the Snowman in a movie, please? This would be the most crazy Marvel show ever. So this was cool. So they go into the, what is it, the library?
The Library of Gods.
Yes.
Well, it shows up in King Thor too.
Yes. But it's so cool because it's referencing basically all the stories of these characters and throughout history, and it's like referencing Spider-Man and Wolverine and how these characters, whether they know it or not, made deals to prolong their lives throughout history so they can continue making bigger impacts on all the timelines and stuff. And so Loki is kind of like deciding like whether or not like he wants to do that and wants to embrace that and have a bigger impact and have something more to say. It was good. I liked it. I've really enjoyed this Loki run, and I don't know if it's capping off at 5 issues or not.
I don't know either.
But it's been cool to see like the different interpretations of Loki, and he has to play this really cool chess game with the Children of Eternity and stuff. And there's a lot of like other things that happen as well. But between this issue and the issue where he's going to meet Tony Stark,
that was issue 2.
Yeah, it's a really fun contrast and stuff to see them exploring the Marvel universe.
And then you get to King Thor Loki.
Holy shit.
Which is a very different Loki.
It is. This is like okay, so I think I mentioned this in the first issue. This Loki run, I feel like could be a basis, like the tone of it could be a basis for the Tom Hiddleston show. Whereas, not this. Because this is crazy.
No, this is... So, Adam decided he was going to read King Thor #1, and I forgot. I was going to tell him, don't.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't read any of Jason Aaron's Thor run. This is the culmination. This is the end. This is where it's all been building to, and we get the original creative team back from the beginning, which was part of the original God Butcher storyline. So much has happened since Jason Aaron started writing Thor, and I know all of it's going to come up in this series. Like, I'm even fully expecting to see Jane Foster Valkyrie show up at the end of time. That's who I thought was going to be at the end of this issue, honestly. But it wasn't, and I was excited by who I saw. But, so if you've been reading Jason Aaron's Thor, there's so much good stuff in here. Bringing a lot of things to an end, finishing off this story, and I think Jason Aaron's run of Thor for years to come is going to be listed as one of the best runs of Thor ever. I've been saying that even before King Thor started. What he's building is something masterful. It's really, really well done, and to me, it's even higher than like Jack Kirby, like Thor. It's to me now become Thor. This is Thor. Yeah. This is the world of Thor that my brain wants to live in.
I mean, even
and it's metal. It is so metal.
Having not read the previous runs that Jason Aaron has done, the one thing just from this issue alone, it is very rich.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't mean just in terms of the artwork. I mean in terms of the story. Like, just reading it,
it's epic.
You feel like there's been so much that's been built up to these moments. And that was kind of the thing that even though I read it not having the full context of the story, it was super...
Like this character from his run from years ago.
It was super interesting, and like it was really exciting to read because I'm turning the page going like, and after I got about 3 pages in, I'm like, there's a lot in here that I don't... that has been set up that I don't know.
These are all Thor's granddaughters?
Yes. And I thought like just that element in itself, having the grandchildren of Thor, was like, oh crap, there's so much in here.
Thor's like the last god.
Yeah.
He's been trying to save the gods, but they've all been dying, just like they did before in the God Butcher run, which you gotta go back and read.
Yeah.
And all life in the universe was about to die, and he kind of restarted humanity. Like the All-Father Thor kind of restarted humanity on Earth, and he's taking it upon himself to try to regain hope.
This artwork is so
sick. we get King Thor versus the All Butcher, which is Loki. This like Necro sword, which is made up by Null, was used by the God Butcher to kill thousands of gods in the God Butcher run, and that was eons ago in this life. But Thor remembers it all, you know, and he lived it and everything. When this book gets metal, it gets so metal. And I have to show you a panel that as I was reading it, I was like, no, no, no. Ah! I was okay, this was metal.
Yeah.
He sends Mjolnir to a sun, and Loki's like laughing at him. And he's basically describing, like, as all the planets died and life in the universe was destroyed, some of these planets went through this, like, gestation period. And he's like, this planet in particular, molten gas, blah, blah, blah. a planet of napalm. And he throws the hammer down on the ground and blows up the entire planet while they're fighting. Man. It's so metal.
It's crazy.
And the most metal part, though, is one of the most metal things. And this is where I told Adam, I was like, this is why comic books are awesome.
Yeah.
Marvel will never, ever put this in a movie. They won't do it, but we get it in a comic book, and it's so metal. So Loki stabs him through the chest, rips it down his stomach, and Thor's intestines are just flowing out into space. Which is already like,
you think that'd be the end of that?
And then Thor takes his intestines, wraps them around Loki's neck, and ties the other end of his intestines to Mjolnir and throws him into the sun. It is the most metal Thor moment I've ever had, ripping off his own intestines as Thor goes sending Loki right into the sun. Oh,
I turned
comic
the page.
books.
I turned the page and I was like, damn. Okay. This is crazy.
Well, when it's happening, you're like, wait, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, he is. Oh no.
It's so crazy.
Oh man. And what makes it even more metal is as he's with his eye patch on, she died of a broken heart.
Cursing your wretched name. He's, oh, it was crazy, man.
Oh God, I love how metal it is.
So good.
It is so metal. Read this Thor run. I don't know how many times I have to tell people this Thor run is just so good. It is now, in my mind, what Thor is as a character.
Yeah.
And even, like, when I think of Thor, I'm going to think of this Thor before I even think of any of the movie Thors.
Sure.
Like, I have to get past this world's Thor,
yeah,
Jason Aaron's Thor, before I can even see the movie Thor in my head. I have to separate them.
Yeah. So. You think, well.
I'm not going to show him the ending.
No, don't.
Yeah. I want to leave that a secret.
To be continued.
Yeah. I gotta read that Thor book, man. Gotta go back. You gotta go back. You gotta check it out. This book might be my pick of the week. Might be my pick of the week. Or, surprisingly, there's another one that we'll get to. Might be my other pick of the week. Also, Invisible Woman, number 3 of 5. This book is still killing it on all levels. Surprise book for me. I want this Invisible Woman in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now. And that's what it feels like. This feels like this is a prime real world take on Invisible Woman, and she's a spy, and the way she interacts with this world and the art, it's all just, it's written like so well. And the relationship stuff and the build-up in this one, I can't tell you anything about it because it's such a good spy story that I don't want to reveal any of the secrets or things that are going on, because it even plays out like a spy movie, and there's twists and turns and things that happen, and they use her powers in such interesting ways. Yeah. There's so many cool uses of her powers as a spy that get used in this it's just awesome. This is a killer book. Another book from Marvel right now that you can't go wrong with. It's really great. Really great. Check it out.
So good.
So good. All right. Oh, let's leave that.
Is it about to log you out?
I don't know what it's doing.
Every time,
right? Let's see. Next up on our list here, after Invisible Woman, Gotham City Monsters. You read this, right?
I did read it, and I didn't really like it that much.
Really?
I know so it says it's a 6-issue miniseries. It does a lot of like setting up, and so you meet Frankenstein's monster, you meet Killer Croc, and you get a little bit of context of Croc in particular, he's trying to be a little bit more of a reformed character. And then we spend a lot of time with characters that I've not seen before in DC Comics. I'm not really familiar with some of them. I just really couldn't get into the story. I didn't really know, this is vampire, spoilers. I didn't know what it was trying to set up, and I don't know where it's trying to go. And it just sort of feels like it's going to be a team up of monsters that live within the Gotham City. And I was like, I don't know. And it wasn't the fact that there was no Batman or any superhero. I just really wasn't, aside from Killer Croc, they didn't set up the characters in a way for me to care enough to want to continue reading it. So I don't know. I couldn't get sucked in. It was one of those books that I read and I was like, nah, I'm not really into this. Which kind of sucks, because I feel like in previous weeks, there's most of the DC stuff I've read. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm into this, I'm into this, I'm into this, and this week I'm like, nah, that's okay. Sadly.
Are you reading? Did you get through the Riddler?
I think I got through all of it. This was the issue that had Tut in it.
Oh, okay. Did you get through the whole thing?
I think I did. I think I got all the way to the end. Let's see. Okay, maybe I didn't. So, well, whether I did or didn't, I actually thought this was kind of a fun read. So Lex Luthor, as we know from some of the other books that have been happening, he's kind of going around and he's more or less like recruiting villains. And he's always leaving villains with like little nuggets, and Edward Nygma feels a little offended because he's like, I've known Lex Luthor for so long. Lex Luthor has never left me any golden nugget or anything that I can use to defeat Batman or to defeat, you know, any of the other superheroes in the DC universe. So he's been kind of teaming up with Tut, and they've been trying to figure out and scheming a way to figure out how they can take down Batman together. It's kind of like, I don't want to say it's a throwaway issue. It's a little more comical and like lighthearted than I feel like a lot of the other books that DC's putting out right now. This is ridiculous.
I know.
Tut's house.
If you're wondering where he is.
Just in case you wanted to capture him. But these two are basically just trying to put a plot together where they can kill and or stop Batman from chasing them. At the same time, Riddler is really trying to like prove his worth and trying to figure out what does he have to do to be valuable in Lex Luthor's eyes. So I think for that element, it's good. I didn't get a chance to get all the way to the end of it, but I liked sort of the setup of it. It's definitely a lot more lighthearted and I guess just lighthearted. A lot more lighthearted than I thought it was going to be. Kind of balancing it out with where everything else DC's kind of been doing. When you pair it up and you look at the Flash book that I read and other things that I read from previous weeks and then what DC's is doing, you're not really expecting this to be kind of more lighthearted like it is, but it was a good read from everything that I got through. I got through about 75% of it, so I would check it out.
Yeah, no one would ever know this is Tut's house. He's a villain, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would never know.
You never find him. He's in hiding.
That's why, like, I was reading it while we were prepping, and I looked at the tag. I'm like, only in comic books.
Yeah. It's gonna have to be the new tagline for our show. Only in the comics.
Only in comics.
Only in comics. Only in comics, everybody. So I know we're running out of time, so I want to focus on.
Sure. I think that's everything that well, we'll keep going. Yeah.
I love Daredevil. Again, this run of Daredevil is really strong. Zdarsky's killing it, knocking it out of the park with this run. Marvel is doing some really cool stuff right now, and this run of Daredevil is one of them. This continues the storyline. There's a great moment in here with Spider-Man and the detective that's trying to hunt down Daredevil. Spider-Man has a great Spider-Man moment, and it's funny because Zdarsky keeps putting great Spider-Man moments in this book. Elektra shows up, and she tells Matt Murdock, or Daredevil, that she's gonna be his new stick because he's gone soft. And there's more stuff going on with the mob that has the hit on him. Good book overall, lots of good stuff. Both of us want to read The Collapser, so we need to catch up on that. I picked up volume 1 of Cold Blooded Samurai because I need to catch up on that. Coffin Bound number 2, way better. Issue 2. Issue 1 wasn't bad, but I had no clue what the hell was going on. Issue 2 makes a little bit more sense. It seems like on her journey, she's trying to destroy any evidence that she lived. So she's going to all the people she used to know, places she lived, people she talked to, and she's taking from them any remnants of what would define her as a person. But there's some crazy other characters that show up. This book is still a mind trip.
Yeah.
It is very much like a Neil Gaiman, like weird kind of world. It feels very much like that. I mean, we basically have the lead singer of Prodigy in this book. Right there.
Yeah.
It's a weird read, but really fun, and I thought this issue tied things together a lot better than issue 1 did, and that made a pretty strong read for me. Going down through this list though, so we can get back to X-Men. I didn't get a chance to read Captain Marvel. Catwoman, Bone Parish Volume 1. I feel dumb that I haven't read this yet, so I'm excited to go back and read Bone Parish. I saw a new issue came out and I wanted to go back and catch up instead of just jump into the new one. So I got 107 pages to read of that.
Yeah.
Black Hammer Justice League number 3, really fun, still great.
Oh, you read it?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I've been reading all of Black Hammer Justice League Team Up. It's fun. It's really fun.
That's good.
It is more Black Hammer than it is Justice League. Like, it's definitely from Jeff Lemire's perspective.
Yeah. Nice.
Let's see, Batman Universe #3 we didn't get to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that came out this week.
A lot.
I'm really excited to read Baby Teeth. I didn't know this was Donny Cates' book, so I'm excited to check that out. Girl Has the Son of Antichrist. I started reading Atar Ghul, and I can't wait to finish it. This is where I had to I stopped reading right before the show started. Just read this description. Let's pull up the description if we can. Let me see if I can pull it up in the store page. It's a lot. So if you pick this book up, be prepared for it. Be prepared. From the award-winning writer and bestseller Tyler Cross, The Death of Stalin, illustrated by award-winning artist Bruno, Atar Ghul is a prince among his people until he is kidnapped by the ruthless Captain Brulart, shipped to Jamaica and sold like livestock. He endures pain and loss, but Atar Ghul is a patient man and his revenge will be served cold. It is a slave story, and it pulls no punches.
Wow.
It's a very dark slave story, and so far, expertly written and told. And I'm excited to dive back into this. Really, really good. Really, really dark. So be prepared for that if you want to check it out. Let's see. Next up, Absolute Carnage, Symbiote of Vengeance. Meh. I read through it. Kind of already forgot it. Okay. Amazing Spider-Man #29 is the first Amazing Spider-Man issue in this entire run, and it's weird to say that, it is issue 29, that I think is masterful. This one is great, and it is a Peter Parker, Mary Jane issue. And those are usually the best ones.
Yeah.
Those are usually the best. This entire issue is just about Peter needing to take the next steps with Mary Jane, and she gets offered an acting job, and she's gonna have to go across the country, and they're gonna be apart from each other for 2 months, and I want this all the time from Spencer's run. I want this level of heart and this level of deep, Peter being such a person. It's really well written. It's a great issue. If you like Peter and Mary Jane together, this issue is awesome. And it's done really, really well. Really, really well. Okay, that's all of this week's books. I read Triage last night. It was actually really good. It came out last week and I missed it and I was sad. It's great. Let's go talk X-Men. Okay, it's really good. It's like 3 women who are all from different universes get pulled together into one and they're being hunted by this dude. And one of them is a superhero, one is a mercenary, and one's a nurse, but they're all the same person but in different universes. It's good.
That's cool.
Okay, shall we? Powers of 10, our weekly update on what is going on in the Hickman X-verse. Woo! Exposition week time, says Uberbaldi. Yeah, this is definitely an exposition week. I want to know if the chat room's been able to pull apart all of the secrets Sinister brings up. Because I feel like they're things X-Men fans might know.
Yeah.
And I hate that I didn't know a lot of them. This issue is very clearly leading to what's going to happen. Like I said, obviously, I think what we saw in issue 1 is going to be the end of the series. X-Men are reborn.
Yeah.
What this issue made me realize, though, I think we need to stop looking at House of X and Powers of 10 as a closed story. I think this entire series run, sole purpose is to set up X-Men for the next couple of years. And I think we're gonna get a lot of things left unsaid and unanswered, and it will be the job of the next creative teams over the next couple of years
to figure that out.
To reveal them.
Yeah.
Because we are now more than halfway through and they're still bringing up new stuff. And that makes me realize we're not supposed to get all the answers in this run. They're gonna keep bringing up some new stuff and it's gonna tie into the next couple years of X-Men. I'm pretty sure that's what's gonna happen.
I mean, for me, this issue is like, we are about halfway, right?
We're over halfway.
We're over halfway. So I liked this issue. I guess, I don't know. I feel like riding off the high of the last 2 issues, I can't say this issue was slow because it wasn't at all. Like, I read through it so quickly.
This issue?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I read through it. I feel like I was done with it so fast. At the same time, I'm like, I feel like, and I'm sure this will what I'm about to say will probably end up not being resolved, but there will be a continuing factor of it that will play into the next issue. I feel like I got through it and I'm like, did I like skip pages?
See, I felt like this issue took me a long time because there was so much to
Maybe
like...
I just read through it too fast or something. I don't know.
I had to go back and read a couple pages because I felt like I was moving too quick through it, and I was like, there's so much exposition.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot going on in here. I love this Sinister. This take on Sinister,
Yeah.
I am here for. I was not expecting a
I
really
did love this opening part,
flamboyant theatric Sinister,
Yeah.
which I know Sinister is into his theatrics, but not at this level and not in this Hickman book.
Yeah.
I am here for this Sinister that is mini Sinister who don't agree with each other.
Yeah.
And to the point that one of the Sinisters like, we don't like the mutant gene. Boom!
Yeah.
I'm the one with the mutant gene, and I think I'm pretty great.
No, I mean, and again, like I don't have the huge context and history of the character, but just reading
He's an egomaniac, for sure.
Just reading this alone, I was like, I really love what they're doing with this character and how this character has the opportunity to be played around. Just so many different shades of the character, I guess is the word I'm looking for, and it made it really fun. And especially in the opening, where he's just kind of assassinating Xavier and Magneto, and Magneto's like, I'm not into this. Like, just take us to what we.
Heather Ann Tulliver says, I'm curious about why Charles is in and out of the wheelchair. I can't figure out which timeline we're dealing with. I think we're in the same timeline throughout this. I think pay attention to the years. Because whenever something says year 0, that's back when she first told Xavier what's going on.
Yeah,
When it says a few months ago, that's now, I think they call it year 10. So it's 10 years later. And they still haven't told us what happened between year 0 and year 10 that gave Xavier the ability to walk.
Right.
They haven't
Still a
described that
mystery.
yet. But this version of Sinister is, I'm just here for it.
Yeah.
Violent, eccentric, crazy, just a crazy mess.
Basically, no given.
Also having like
Commentary about the cape was hilarious.
commentary about the cape, but then also this Sinister with a pistol
Yeah. Yeah.
and just being bonkers.
Yeah. It's blowing heads
Absolutely
off.
bonkers. But then there's this whole segment about the best news and gossip from Bar Sinister. I feel like there's a lot of stuff in this.
Yeah.
And this is where I kept rereading it, because knowing Hickman, every single thing in here is something.
Yeah. Ties into something, will play a role, etc., etc.
Uberwell, do you have any theories about this? Did you do any research on this? Yeah, come here, Uberbaldi. Tell me, don't just be that dick in the chat room. Be a real person. So,
One, I have no fucking clue.
you have no clue about one.
I have no clue about one. Yeah, I mean, red shoes, it's kind of light.
Human clothes, assuming across the island full of flowers full. So that just sounds like crazy Sinister. I know the deceased redheaded pretender is probably Jean Grey.
Or Madeline Pryor.
Okay.
Because that's the one where she made a deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she made a deal. So that's Madeline Pryor, I'm pretty sure. So there are more secrets that that Sinister knows about Madeline Pryor, and I'm assuming the deal she made to become the Goblin Queen.
Gotcha.
Has been wondering oh yeah, the brainwashed one? No, is that, oh no, what washed ashore? Some people are thinking that might be Jean when she came back.
Okay.
So that's referring to Jean when she came back because she just walked up on the shore. I kind of feel like all of these are taking place now.
They're supposed to be like things that are going on right now.
At the moment, so I don't know if that ties in. So I think that might be something that
Elliot Trey says Secret 8's going to be a big battle down the line. For years, the fittest of all mutants has routinely surrounded himself with a particular numbered entourage. These hangers-on stick around for a while until they're eventually replaced with newer, more exciting members. What most people don't know is that the original members return, these pretenders would be dropped so fast their heads would spin.
And this one we actually see later in this book. Because this is clearly Apocalypse. And if you've read the book, and I'm sure Zach's
the
gonna
fittest
get to
of
it,
all mutants, yeah.
Yeah, and so the 4 horsemen, but when
they reveal that there's these horsemen from the past.
Yes, that Krakoa was telling
through the history of Krakoa. That's the part I kept having to reread because I'm like, this is all such new information.
Because Apocalypse left those horsemen to
Inside
guard against Auroch.
Right.
Yeah. So they're in the past, but apparently, like, this is basically saying that maybe those guys are coming back, and it also seems like Krakoa wants to be
Reunited.
whole.
Right,
Yeah,
reunited. Interesting.
The Progerian mutant, some people are thinking is Strife.
This says Inferno too, and one of the characters in the silhouette look like Inferno.
Yeah. And is that no? Which one is the one? Is it 4? No, not 4. Brainwash mutant. Oh no, 7. That's hinting that there's more than 3 Summers kids.
It's the Summers kids. They jumped out of the plane.
Alex and Scott jumped out of the plane.
So this is saying there's
Vulcan
more than
disappeared.
3 Summers.
That's what it's hinting at. That Vulcan's not the only
Only
brother.
one.
Everyone, the Progerian mutant, I'm not sure about. Progerian is the disease that makes you age
Damn it,
quickly.
Hickman. See, this is the stuff where it's like, there's so much more here.
Yeah.
It's just not on the panels.
Yeah, no, you really have to think about it. But some people are thinking that 6 is Strife and having to do with the disease he created. Not the techno-organic virus.
Legacy virus.
Legacy virus, yeah. Because he's the one who aged quickly. And that's what Progerian is. 6 is obviously Wolverine, Jean Grey, and Scott and Emma. But, I mean, again, like, if my theory is right that it's all linear, they don't... do they have a kid? Are they saying that Cable's already been born in this timeline and we haven't seen it yet? Because this one's clear. 5 is saying that there's a kid. 9 seems like this one seems to be about the new... Some people said that it was...
Not all is right in Krakoa.
Yeah.
They say the kids are all right, but not all is all right in Paradise. That sounds like Krakoa.
Yeah, and some people were saying that this is referring... Because non-couple, people were saying, oh, it's Wolverine and Jubilee. I don't think it's that.
I don't think so
it's,
either.
I think it's a couple that was never able to maintain that relationship. I think it's Colossus and Kitty.
Right.
And that when they get together, something's gonna go off. Yeah.
Oh man, there's a lot of good stuff in here.
And the brainwashed Sinister. So I feel like I saw that somewhere in the past. I haven't read X-Men comics regularly in a long ass time. But I feel like there was a Sinister that was not normal. And it was mentioned. I feel like it was mentioned a long, long time ago, like 10 years ago.
So Adam, this is where this book is like, yo, X-Men fans, there's history here. And here's more stuff to come. And this is what I mean, like it feels like they're setting up the next couple of years of X-Men books.
Yeah.
Not just this series. There's gonna be way more stuff down the line. I actually really liked all of this. I really liked Cypher learning how to communicate with Krakoa, and also under the guide of Xavier, and Xavier being an interesting teacher in these moments.
Yeah.
Also, he looks so much like his evil sister twin, not really sister twin, Cassandra Nova. Like, this is like her outfit, and I'm just like, are you trying to tell me something here? Hickman, what are you doing? Why do you put him in this outfit right now? I don't know, especially if it's just supposed to be a couple months ago. It's weird.
Yeah.
But I liked this segment a lot because I like Xavier being this teacher who knows his students so well. He knows how to kind of like play them into getting what he wants, putting them in a situation that they can't say no to. That's how I took this scene. And also, this is beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
I thought this whole scene was gorgeous.
Yeah. And I guess now thinking about it, you know, having read through it kind of quick, I guess because I wouldn't pick up on those other things, having not read a lot of like
X-Men books,
I'm kind of reading going like, I don't understand like what this is.
Yeah.
I'm reading this, I'm going, okay, but what is this telling me about this story that's currently happening? Because like the stuff in the opening with Sinister, I really like this, learning to communicate with Krakoa and understanding the language of Krakoa and like what it all means is super interesting to me. I guess it's just like that stuff that I read in between. I'm like, I don't understand,
and
I don't get this.
I really like this too. But again, this feels like the setup for the future.
Yeah.
Why are you showing me who all these horsemen are and that Apocalypse saved the universe at one point? Because that, oh yeah, it looks like Inferno. Or not Inferno, what's his name? He was a Herald of Galactus. I'll remember it in a little bit. It's so interesting though, to like reset up these characters. And now that Uber's saying like the 4 Horsemen of Apocalypse, like if they were to come back, it's like, oh yeah, they're gonna come back.
Yeah.
That's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Apocalypse has been way too present in the storyline and not
so
present
much,
at the same time because it was a different universe for him to not come back.
Yeah.
Firestar. God, yeah, you're right. Firestar. Yeah, I dug all of this. And that Xavier just shows him everything. And that we get to learn how people communicate with Krakoa.
Yeah.
More world building. And I also really like this part. This opens my brain up to so many things. Why does he keep showing us 1,000 years from now? What is this all going to mean?
Hell if I know.
And after showing us last issue of Powers of 10, when it breaks down how the Phalanx are like the top, the furthest you can evolve.
Yeah.
And we now know that this little flying thing with them is Nimrod in the future. What are they planning? It's so vague, but it's the kind of vague that doesn't make me upset. It's the kind of vague that makes me like, what is happening?
Yeah.
What the hell's going on? What is gonna happen? Because they don't get fully absorbed or taken, and it's like they're testing the Phalanx and wanting to see how the Phalanx react to the information that's been given over. And I have no idea where this is going, and I'm so intrigued by it.
Yeah.
And I'm intrigued by this prospect of reintroducing the Phalanx, but it's 1,000 years from now. So even then, I'm like, what does this matter? And as Zone Fighter J says, is this even the same timeline? Because we learned that 100 wasn't.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like a redirect.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, and because we are where we are in terms of the timeline and where these books are coming out, I think assuming that a lot of this stuff is going to eventually sort of like dovetail off into their own respective books seems very, very more and more likely now as we kind of go along. Because yeah, you're right. You know, reading this, it's still setting up things. And I'm like, you're not going to resolve this in 4 or 5 issues.
Nope.
Like, it's not going to happen.
4 issues left.
There's no way.
No way.
Especially if you're going in between stories like this. There's no possible way. Like, I feel like we're going to get to the last issue of Powers of 10 and House of X, and we're going to get to... It's going to be the final setup for where these books are going to then spring off into. And it's going to be the perfect hook, because there's no way you're going to read this and go, well, I'm going to stop here. You're not going to. There's no way. Like, how do you? How do you with so much setup and with so much, investing so much in the descriptive language of what all these things are and the imagery, and how do you stop at this point?
So this one is called, the next book coming with Apocalypse is called Society.
Yeah.
And then the one that shows Sinister is For the Children.
God damn.
So we're gonna get all those clones, man. For the clones!
Oh, it's gonna be wild.
Oh, For the Children's translation for the next issue. Next issue is Society. Yeah, it's the red one.
Gotcha. Oh, right. Yeah.
House of X,
Yeah.
called Society. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you know, ooh, yeah, you're still thinking Sinister's doing stuff to reincarnate mutants? Oh, definitely. I mean, Xavier basically said, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna give you the genome of all the mutants, and you're gonna forget that I told you to do it. Which is wild. Because if you know the story of Sinister, like, that's what made him a villain.
Yeah.
So if we're supposed to believe there's a certain timeline, Xavier's a shady mofo that's been telling his X-Men, like, oh, we gotta stop Sinister. Oh no, Cyclops and Jean were captured by Sinister. Whoops! Wonder what happened there. Hey, did you get what you needed? You got it? You got it? We're gonna call him one day? Good, okay, good. Let's, all right, we gotta go save him. Gotta go save him.
Oh my God.
All right, everybody, let's do some Rat Queens hype. Thank you all so much for joining us today here on Comics and Coffee. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Share with us on Twitter, at Zach Eubank, at Adam Lavick, and at Hyper_RPG, and at Hyper Heroes, all 4 accounts. Share with us what you picked up,
Yes.
what you're reading, what you're enjoying about the show, what you hope we talk more about. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Get hyped. Rat Queens is up next on twitch.tv/HyperRPG. Woo! Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.